This is one that there's probably a ton of opinions out there on, and I will just share my own insight, what I have learned through working with clients over the years, and then also in building our most recent home, because I feel like that's when I really was able to kind of hone in on what my own personal style is. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of when our next video is live. And now we're going to dive into style and how you can find out what your interior design style is. Often, a lot of us can appreciate different styles. Like we can see something and think that is beautiful. And especially as an interior designer, you work with so many different clients with different design ideas and styles that you can really make any of those visions of theirs come to life and look great. So it's not like there's one right answer to what's the best style. But I think that all of us do have kind of a core style that we're drawn to, and it's usually a mix-up of a few different things. So I like to use kind of a 3-part system, 3 words, and the place I like to start is the exterior of the home. A lot of times you're working on remodeling or updating a home, and you'll first want to look at the exterior of the home. What style is that? And use that instead of fighting against it. Even if it's maybe something that you don't love, it's probably not something you're gonna change. Look to that as a little place to draw some inspiration from. If you are updating your exterior or you're building from scratch, you can look at different architectural styles to see what you love. Maybe it's a European style. You can look at different architecture from over the years. I am inspired by a lot of the European styles that have been around forever. And then there's also stuff like Craftsman. If you want a little bit more traditional, you can kind of go back even through more recent architecture and kind of see what styles of home you're drawn to. Farmhouse has obviously been really popular, thanks to Miss Joanna Gaines. And I think a lot of people too didn't even recognize that as a style until she came onto the scene and was, able to demonstrate what you can do with that style, which is really cool. So for me, when I was building this house, I wanted, I actually drew the exterior of my home from scratch. And so I wanted something that had those European elements that I love when you think of like Jane Austen novels and things like that. That's kind of what appeals to me, some of that symmetry and those details. And it's really important to look at, if you have, this is kind of my second point, is look at your Pinterest boards, see what stuff you're saving, and that is a great point of reference. It's often hard for people to articulate into words what their style is, but when they actually just look at what they're saving on their phone, they're screenshotting or pinning or just generally drawn to, that is a lot of your style right there. See what common elements are in your Pinterest boards, your screenshots, those sorts of things to really identify what you love and what speaks to you. Especially when you look at a full space, try to look at a full space and the feeling you get from it rather than what the current trends are. Like what kind of tile did they use? What kind of wall color is appearing over and over in these images you're saving? And find those common threads, because that is kind of what your core style will be. That means that whole image appealed to you. And so it's probably the style speaking to you rather than just a trend. Thirdly, think about finished details. So when you are thinking of furniture or light fixtures or faucets, what are you drawn to there? And that's going to be our third word. And I'm going to give you an example of this 3-word thing. For me, I had the European exterior. I was drawn to organic elements, things that are more simple and refined and clean. I like simple lines, and I love textures like the pendants over my island. They have that woven organic nature about them that really speaks to me. And so my second word would be organic, said European, organic. And the last one is modern, because I love the matte black and the clean lines like I did on my railing or in light fixtures. And so European, organic, modern is the style that I came up with. And what was cool was back when we built our house about, it was over 3 years ago now when we started, I really wanted to find this deeper connection to the design rather than what was my favorite trend or what was really cool at the time. I wanted it to be a more timeless approach. And so that's why I was referencing those things that, like, especially, this is kind of a cool place to look to, is if you watch in movies. I love, one of my favorite things to do is to watch in movies the sets or the interiors, the exteriors. And a lot of those things you can watch in movies and they'll be really old. Okay, here's a good one. The Parent Trap, the one with Lindsay Lohan. I loved that movie growing up, and watching it as an adult, I am like so intrigued by the fact that that movie was made, I think, in the early 2000s maybe. And so it's, 20 years old, but the designs in there, like the vineyard where the dad lives, I love that house. I think it's amazing how timeless so many of those elements are. And that's what's really cool, is if you do a more timeless approach to your style, you can have something that lasts like for a long time rather than being in and out with trends. I also love let's see, I guess they live, where does the mom live? London. She lives in London, I think. Her place is beautiful too. And so those are like good examples of just timeless design. I got a little passionate there, but it's really fun to watch movies for that kind of thing. And also, like, if you watch Home Alone, it's one of my favorite movies ever. The whole interior of that home, if you'll notice, is all done in red and green, which is just like a cool little detail. It's very 90s, but it's also just like so fascinating because they worked in so many details to kind of draw that like Christmas feeling all the way through. A random tangent. Pay attention to movies. That's one more place you can really look and see design elements that appeal to you, because it's almost like you get a walk through with a video, and a lot of times when it's inside of a home, so that you can hone in on little details you love. So that 3-word thing, think about your exterior, think about images you're drawn to, and thirdly, what kind of finished details do you like? And that will be your general style that you can kind of take through as you're designing, and kind of ask yourself, when you're selecting something, does it fit with everything else? Does it fit these 3 categories? And you will be able to kind of keep a more cohesive feel as you remodel or design your home. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you learned a little bit about how you can identify your own personal style in interior design. Subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of our next video.